Hello friends, I'm Toast. And today we are starting a course on learning Adobe Photoshop. I really want to share all the accumulated knowledge with you so that you can also master this program. So let's get started learning the program. First of all, it is important to understand what type of graphics Photoshop works with. Because this is a fundamental part, without mastering it you will not understand what you are doing. Photoshop works with raster graphics. A raster is a photograph or picture consisting of pixels, that is, small squares that glow in different colors. When you look at your monitor, you can do a little experiment, get closer to the monitor with your eyes, and you will begin to notice various squares, the so-called pixels, from which your image is built. The picture is assembled from three colors: red, green and blue are red, green and blue, R, G, B. Three colors, and when they are mixed together in different proportions and you see one shade or another. In total there can be 16 and 7 million shades of colors, just from these three components, which is really very cool. This color model is present everywhere. In phones, monitors, and in graphics programs you will see it everywhere. This is how you see any picture. Therefore, raster graphics are graphics consisting of pixels. The more of them, the better the quality of the picture. The fewer of them, the more it will look like Super Mario from the 90s or Minecraft. Who plays, understands what I'm talking about. In general, this information is enough for you to get started. Now let's move on to analyzing the interface to understand what is responsible for what and how to get started. As soon as you launch Photoshop, you will be greeted with this Start window, which will list your latest open projects. There is filtering by last opened from top to bottom or bottom to top. You will have the option of sorting by latest projects, by name, size and type. And also preview options, tile or list, as you like. I prefer to look tile. On the top right you will have your profile icon, search by project. Then on the left we have some very important keys that we'll go through now. Home is the home page, we are on it now. In order to start creating a document, you need to click the Create New or Open button if you already have a ready-made document. Now we will create it. The following context window appears here. Let's look at what parameters it contains step by step. Initially, this entire section will be completely empty, because the latest open projects will be displayed here, and you don't have any. And perhaps these parameters will not be available, so just go to one of the prepared templates. For example, go to the photo section and select any preset. After which you will have the appropriate options to configure it. But if you find something that suits you in size, for example, you want to print something, you can go to the printing section and select A4 format here. Ready, here are the ideal parameters for printing in A4 size. You can also use blanks, but as part of our course we will always configure everything from scratch. So, I open the photo section and begin to understand the right palette. First of all, we need to specify the name of our document. Always indicate it, because if you have two identical, unnamed, documents, when you create the second one, your first document will be overwritten and you will lose it. For example, the first lesson. Next, you have the width parameter, it is indicated in some unit of measurement, and if we work for the internet, we always select pixels. Then, regarding what parameters need to be set here, it is very situational. Depends on what you will use it for. For example, if you create a picture for Instagram, you just open the internet and write the sizes of Instagram posts. And he will give you a list of sizes from which you can choose the one you need. In width and height, the same applies when working with printing, with banners and everything else. They will always give you specific sizes. I will use the most standard full HD size. This is 1920 by 1080. I am sure that most people have such monitors in terms of resolution. Resolution, by the way, is the number of dots, these pixels, per unit of space, per inch. The higher the resolution, the higher the quality. Then you have two parameters, orientation. These are portrait, vertical, orientation and landscape, horizontal, orientation. Artboards option, allows you to make multiple artboards in a project. Next, we always set the resolution parameter to pixels per inch. And here everything is quite simple. If you are working on the web, internet, you set it to 72 dots per inch. This is a universal size, which is basically ideal. I haven't had any situations where I had to do more. This is enough for the head. If you print or make some small products, For example, brochures, invitations, business cards, menus. Then set it to 300 pixels per inch. Color mode. The default should be RGB, just the color mode I told you about at the beginning, when we have 3 colors and they are mixed together to get a specific shade. If you are interested in mathematics, then each color has a certain capacity. Imagine that these are 3 cans of paint. Red, green and blue. Each has its own capacity. 0 is absolute emptiness. It's black, there's nothing in it. For example, a red can is 0. As soon as we increase its value, there is more and more paint. We have a range from 0 to 255. That is, 256 shades of colors. Then it also touches the green jar from 0 to 255 and the blue jar. I think everything is clear here. Once we mix all these colors together, the maximum value is 255. We get, oddly enough, white color. Well, you can't argue with the program here. In life, if you mix, you'll get dirt. But in the program it will be white. If you need black, do everything from scratch. If you need gray, then do everything in half. How much is 256 in half? That's right, 128. 128 each and you get the perfect gray color. This is very important because it is often useful in programs. Now, what else is there? There are shades of gray from 0 to 256. From black to white, more SMWK cyan, magenta, yellow and the key color is black. That is, we have 4 colors that mix with each other and we get a shade. This color mode is used exclusively for printing. When you print a document, you select it. Then Lab. This color mode is primarily for photographers. It has a huge number of colors, but our monitors do not display them, so we are leaving it for now. Now we have the next parameter, bit depth. 8, 16 and 32. 32. Don't bet, I don't see the point in it. But 8 and 16 are worth making out. What is bitness you want to show so that you have a better understanding? Bit depth is the amount that a program can write to itself and save when displaying color. For example, here we have a division going on. 1 bit contains 2 colors. Black and white. 2 bits are already 4 shades. And so on in geometric progression. Here we have just an example of an 8-bit image. And from 8 to 16 there will be no difference. And everything that rises higher, you will already see the difference. So why use 16 bits if 8 looks fine? The point is that when you work with photographers, with very cool cameras. Some cameras allow you to record 16 bits. And it allows you to work with color much more flexibly. You will be able to extract details from the shadows, and from the highlights you will be able to greatly change the shades of colors without losing quality. The higher the bit rate, the more room for maneuver you have. Factor of cosmic difference between 8 and 16 bits. But it is important that when we save work, we do it in 8 bits. Since any internet resource recodes this image into 8-bit, upload to Instagram will be 8 bits and to Facebook too. 99% of the time you will use 8 bits, but it is important for you to understand why this choice is given here. Then, background content, which you will have when you create your document. There's white, black, then a default, clear, and custom color selection. The one that you can configure here in the box. Again, 99% of the time the color used is white. Let's move on to something even more interesting and move on to the program interface itself. Next you have the Advanced Options button. Here you have the choice of color profile. With the color profile, friends, be very careful. I'll tell you what the trick is here, what you can spend a lot of time on. Initially, there is a so-called color range that the program displays. You create this range of colors at the very beginning when setting up your document. There are a lot of them. If we talk about the color space in which almost all photographs on the internet are displayed, this is sRGC. That is, when you make a picture for the internet, you select a color profile, RGB workspace. Please don't touch anything else. But if, for example, you will print something, I advise you to choose Adobe RGB. Now you will understand why. Here is a small diagram of how colors are generally displayed in programs. You have a huge canvas with an incredible number of colors. And there are triangles, inside of which there are these color spaces that limit them. Here sRGBI is such a small color space. Some others are bigger than him. Adobe RGB, DCI, Pi 3 and so on. They have more shades, but at the same time, they will still be cropped to the quality of the internet, to this triangle. So, why choose Adobe RGB when printing? The fact is that Adobe RGB contains all the colors that are included in both RGB and SMU. Therefore, when you make a project for printing, you will see the colors that you need. When working under the internet, sRGBI would not touch the other parameters, because they are mainly for video recording and you are unlikely to work with them a lot. Therefore, you leave sRGB for the internet, Adobe RGB for print. There is also a pixel proportion option, select square pixels. With the settings, that's all. And if you want to save the template that you have now configured, then you can always click on the button here, enter its name and click Save. That is, you will save a separate template in the Saved tab, which you can click on and it will automatically adjust all the settings. Insanely convenient thing. I hope your head hasn't started boiling yet, but we still need to go through a little more navigation in the program. So friends, brace yourself. The first video will be quite long and informative, but without this, unfortunately, there's nowhere. Click Create. As soon as you click the Create button, you will be greeted with this workspace. Now let's look at it in more detail. So, let's go in order. The first panel is this top row. This is the so-called Menu panel, where you have the buttons File, Editing, Image, Layers, Text, Selection, Filter and so on. So, the File button, first of all, is used to create new and save existing documents and to open those documents that you may still need. There are also many more additional parameters, but you will use them much less often. We will, of course, sort them all out over time. Then the Edit button. Here there are various nuances that will allow you to cancel and redo actions, fill some objects with color, and so on. Image. Here you can simply do something with the picture, which is logical. Adjust the color, make it brighter, crop, change the size, everything is clear here. Layers, more on that later. Work with text, working with selection, working with various filters, if you need to blur the picture, add noise, etc. Working with 3D space. Then, View is a very important tab where we will work with you. This is the section where you can choose which interface elements you want to show and which to hide. I'll show you with an example. If you want to show rulers, you click Rulers. Here they are here. If you want to hide them, then go to View and hide them. This tab works on this principle. Next, plugins are additional programs inside Photoshop that can be downloaded separately. And Window is a very important part for us. The Window section will list all the palettes that are available in the program. Here they are all. If you see a check mark next to the palette, it means that you have already added it, and you see it on the right, that is, it is open. For example, the Layers palette. Here it is open. Navigator. Here it is open. I think the principle is clear. If the palette is added, but there is no check mark, it means it is collapsed. I show, for example, the History palette. I press it and it opens. That is, it is simply rolled up so as not to take up space. Why would you even hide or show these palettes? Purely for convenience, so as not to clutter your interface. Because there are many palettes here, and you will use different combinations of these panels for different tasks. Let's walk you through the rest of the interface elements. And after that we will set up the workspace. Below you have a palette called Tool Settings. But in order to configure a tool, you need to select it. We select Tools on the left. Here there is a vertical row that allows you to select any tool from the list. This can be Brush, Selection, Fill, and much more. Let's say we have selected Brush. What parameters might it have? The size, color, opacity, the way it draws, what shape it has, the imprint. All this can be adjusted here at the top in the Tool Settings palette. As soon as you take another tool, the settings change, because for the selection tool the settings, which is logical, are different. In the center is your artboard. This is the place where you will work. Think of a white canvas as a piece of paper on which you draw. And at the same time, as soon as you start drawing outside the boundaries of the artboard, nothing will be displayed. That is, this gray area, think of it as a desktop. It's clear that you don't need to draw on it, but why? After all, you have a piece of paper where your finished work will be. Above, this tab is the section in which you will see the latest running projects. I'm showing you, for example, I can go to the desktop and open some kind of project. For example, I'll open one of the processed photos. Now I can see that I have one project and a second project. I can switch between them. And if I don't need one of them, I can close it. I think everything is clear here. On the right we have the palette panel. This is a complex concept that is difficult to explain in a nutshell, but I will try. Palettes are additional customization tools that help you expand the functionality of Photoshop. For example, you have a brush and you want to quickly select colors for it. You will need a separate swatches palette that contains these colors. I'm showing you, Window, then we find Swatches, and here is our palette. Here we can select absolutely any color we need, and the brush will immediately accept it. That is, these palettes, they simply allow us to speed up our work. In certain situations, we don't need it at the moment, but at the same time, using it as an example, I want to show you what you can do with these palettes. You can move them, collapse them, change their size, open their additional settings. Most often I work in this arrangement of palettes. I have one column containing layers and a second column with additional palettes collapsed. I feel so comfortable. Now let's set up your workspace to look like mine. To do this, I will now open this tab here, and you will see the names of all the palettes that I have added here. So, the list of palettes that I have: Info, History, Version History, Clone Source, Character, Paragraph, Brushes, Brush Settings, Libraries, Properties, Paragraphs, Navigator, Layers, Outlines. In the Window tab you can add them. Once you have configured all the palettes, you need to save this workspace so that you do not lose your settings. To do this, click on the drop-down menu in the upper right corner and select New Work Environment. You will have a new workspace created. You can name it, for example, My Workspace. Next you need to check all three boxes. Click Save. Now there are hotkeys for navigating the program. How to quickly approach, move away, move, because this is very important. Without this you will not be able to work. To move closer or further from a document, you press the Alt key and spin the wheel, thereby moving closer or further away. If you want to move up and down, left and right, you hold down the spacebar and move while holding down the left mouse button. If you want to see your document in full screen, then press Ctrl+0. Bonus for the most persistent. Another very useful thing, I recommend using it, because it is more convenient to study all Adobe programs in the English version. So, how to change the Photoshop interface language? Go to Editing, then at the very bottom to Settings, then to General, then select Interface, and there select Interface Language, English International. Click OK. After that you need to restart Photoshop and you're done. Well friends, our first big introductory lesson has come to an end. The next Photoshop tutorials will be a little shorter. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if so, then don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Well, that's all for me. Toast was with you. Bye everyone.